you for joining us today, and welcome to our third episode of Insights Live by Spacestor. I'm Russell Kingston, the Managing Director of Spacestor US. I think all of us would agree that we live in unprecedented times. I guess you've heard that word many times over the past few weeks. However, we're finding that this global health crisis has given us a unique opportunity to connect and share insights with colleagues and friends and other stakeholders. We've had several hundred attend our first series of webinars, and we look forward to seeing you each week. Many of you on the call are people that we know, but there are some people on the call that may be new to Spacestor, so we'll give you a quick overview of who we are. So these are some of the clients that we've been privileged to work with in the tech world and right across all industry verticals in all our global regions. Working with these groups to co-create workspaces is a great experience for us, and it really influences our development as a company and the innovative products that we create. You will have seen our strapline, California Cool and London Design. These are the two core influences that really encapsulate who we are. London Design, speaking to our background in London for over 35 years, but then in 2012 we established our presence in California, and our California really speaks right back to that long history of innovation and vision in the region, right from the gold rush through to today with Silicon Valley and the tech influence that comes out from there. This has had a real influence on who we are as a company. So the subject of today, our new design centre in New York. Why New York? Well, we've worked in all the major cities across Europe and across the USA, and we've done some great projects here in New York already. We love the energy and the buzz of New York and what it brings to the workplace. With some of the biggest workplace transformation projects happening here in New York, this was a fitting place for our next design centre and a great place to demonstrate a microcosm of the experiential workspace. And that's something we'll dive into a bit more detail in a moment. So we work with Gensler on this space, and why Gensler? Well, we work with a huge number of different architectural practices, but we've worked with Gensler in over 25 different offices of theirs across all of our geographic regions, so they have a great insight into our products and how they fit in today's workspace. The concept in this showroom is all about the transformation to an experiential workplace. This is really a major shift away from what we have known as the traditional office. It really recognises the effect on us as human beings and the fact that we need to have experiences. We're not machines. We need to be engaged, and leading employers are recognising this in their quest out there for more talent, especially digital talent. And all our businesses, if they're going to survive and prosper over the next 5, 10, 20 years, need to undergo, or indeed are already undergoing, a digital transformation. One of the refrains we hear right across the US and globally, to take a quote from a major bank in the UK, we want to be the Google of banking. Everybody is competing with those West Coast tech firms for that same pool of digital talent. So what we've done here at 460 Park Avenue South is just to showcase a microcosm of that transformation to an experiential workplace. This is completely different from your traditional, conventional desk-lined office. It's where you've got different movements, different environments to move around in. Flexibility is crucial for this whole move forward in the workplace. You need different zones for the different tasks you're doing. Furniture that can be configured for your preferences or even your mood. So it's a whole shift in the way that workplace is serving us and working with the current trends today. Before I hand over to our next speaker and dive in, I wanted to touch on our new lookbook, Experiential Spaces. This showcases some of the best projects we've worked on, and it's a fantastic volume with some great content. We'd love you to put in any ideas into the Q&A box on this Zoom call as we go through the webinar. Please put your ideas in there, and we'll be picking one lucky winner at random at the end of this call to receive their own personal copy of this. We'd also like to encourage you as we go through the call to put questions into the Q&A box, and we'll have some time at the end for a quick Q&A session. So today on this call, we've got a few speakers. I'll just run through them for you. So you've already met myself, and we have Sam Colamusi, who's a designer in Gensler, New York, and was a key part of the project team here designing this fantastic space for us. We have Nick Baxter, Managing Director of the UK business. We have Gordon Mcdonald, a workspace strategist for us and working predominantly out of New York. We have Megan Lesniak, a workspace strategist and also the manager of this new design centre. And we have Alex Harvey, our Global VP of Sales. So with that, I will hand over to Sam. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Russell. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining today. I really appreciate you all joining in and seeing a little behind the scenes of the design process and concept behind the Spacestor flagship showroom. I really hope you'll all be able to see it in person very soon and that you're staying healthy and safe in the time being during this really crazy time. So a little about me. I'm Sam Colamusi, and I'm a designer in the lifestyle studio at Gensler in New York. And my work focuses on retail projects, hospitality, food and beverage, and I'm often incorporating these elements into our workplace projects as well, which is why I really think that designing the Spacestor showroom flagship was a perfect synergy between these practice areas. Before I begin, I wanted to start off by thanking the incredible Gensler team that I worked with for all their hard work, their research and creativity that it took to design this space. And I'd also like to thank all of the consultants and the AOR De La Garza Architecture for bringing this vision to life with us. And lastly, I of course need to thank Spacestor for an amazing collaboration and partnership. It's really been a pleasure to work together this past year, and I'm thrilled to see how this space turned out. So for those who don't know too much about Gensler, we're a global architecture, design, and planning firm with 49 locations around the world and more than 6,000 professionals across Asia, Europe, Australia, the Middle East, and the Americas. We serve more than 3,500 active clients in virtually every industry, and we make for an extremely diverse group of people. I found that there's always an expert in our network ready to share their expertise. And for this project, in fact, we collaborated with the London office's Philippe Paré, who was a really big influence in this design as well. Some other fun facts about Gensler: that we speak 80 different languages and represent more than 90 countries. Also, millennials make up more than half of our firm, including myself. At Gensler, we do a lot of research that informs our designs. So since 2005, Gensler has actually closely studied trends impacting workplaces around the world to better understand what drives employees' effectiveness and what leads to really great work environments. We have seen that workplace performance drivers have changed over the years, with 2019 focusing on employees seeking a sense of connectedness and belongingness with peers. And I have a feeling that 2020 will be driven heavily by mobility, flexibility, health and wellness, even more so due to the ongoing pandemic. So with that being said, for the Spacestor showroom, we looked at a variety of global design trends in multiple sectors and looked at how they can really impact our design process. So beginning with workplace trends, we're seeing that open workplace that also allows for ample on-demand private spaces have the highest productivity and experience scores amongst their users. I'm sure you've noticed that successful work environments such as co-working spaces, typical offices, coffee shops, and even home offices are providing variety in space types for employees to have privacy and focus while also prioritizing collaboration and connection. So moving forward, I'm curious, as I'm sure you all are, about how design will shape the future of workplace, retail, hospitality, and all of our other practice areas in this post-pandemic world. That'll be really interesting to see. So the next trend I wanted to talk about is multimodal spaces, which I'm sure that you've seen a lot. So similar to workplace trends, the workplace trend of providing variety in spaces and typologies for employees, the more general design trend of multimodal spaces is really about how the work-life balance is now a work-life blur. Multitasking is just the new norm. People are working out at work, parking garages are becoming event spaces, and retail stores are hosting classes. The goal of a space in an age where rents are high and people can work anywhere and shop online is to create a memorable experience that will encourage longer time spent in the space and therefore hopefully turns into repeat visits. Invisible tech is another super interesting trend. I hope all of these are interesting to you guys, but this is another trend that I find fascinating and I know will continue to change and evolve over time. So technology to me does not mean screens, it does not mean digital. Technology should do more than that. It should be meaningful to enhance the authenticity of a space. The invisible tech trend is about restoring that lost human environment connection, as tech has definitely distanced society from nature. Together, tech and design can enhance biophilia in a space, and biophilia is not just plants or greenery. It's all about light, organic forms, natural tactile materials, and airflow and thermal comfort. In the future, I think we will start to see even more uses for technology to play an invisible role in enhancing our experience in a space. And last of the design trends that I have to share with you is mood-based design, which is all about connecting a brand with an emotional feeling or connection. So as cliche as it is, when you walk into a space, what is its vibe? Does it feel good? Does it feel right? Is it a memorable experience? Is it a place that you really want to come back to? Can you see yourself being there again? So successful spaces should say yes to all of those questions, but really a well-designed space should subconsciously evoke positive feelings, a sense of discovery, and hopefully translates to repeat visits from consumers and invites them to learn more and engage with your brand going forward. So I'll start talking about the design framework a little bit. So these design trends began to really influence the design for Spacestor. We began to identify some of the goals we would like to achieve in the New York City flagship. And one main one is that this space is not just a furniture showroom. I mean, we've said this over and over and over again. It is a flagship, it is a destination, and it should grow brand awareness in the Northeast to enhance their global reputation. Our hope for this space was to encourage engagement with consumers, inspire designers to think outside the box, and be a place where collaboration, experimentation, and activations could all take place. So everyone loves a before and after shot. So these are the not so glamorous befores. And we'll show you what we're working with. So some things to note were that this space is on the second level of a corner lot with high street visibility. The entry was actually down a small corridor off of the elevator with some not so beautiful finishes, you know, ACT tile, white walls, gray carpet. But overall, inside, it was a really great space with tons of natural daylight and character that we had to work with. We created this diagram to begin our planning strategy and take full advantage of the existing architecture. We knew that a major design opportunity was the ceiling, as it would be completely visible from the street, as well as the window branding from the street to really draw people into that second level. And also from the start, we were thinking about using one central feature that would allow circulation to flow around it. That was more of a permanent kind of fixed feature, and then provide flexibility within the showroom that would be constantly changing for activations, events, and new product displays in the space kind of around it. Our design framework was composed of 4 design principles and 4 aesthetic attributes that we constantly referred to when we were designing the space. So heuristic is my personal favorite, which I think in turn became to be Spacestor's as well, a new vocabulary word. But heuristic means to enable a person to discover or learn something for themselves. So we hoped that our unique uses of their products in unconventional ways would inspire designers to think outside the box and use Spacestore's products in unconventional ways as well. So now as we get into the concept a little bit, bringing in some nods to the design trends that we talked about earlier, our design concept was about discovering the unexpected. This showroom was designed to be a brand experience, encouraging people to discover new ways of working and offer a unique way for designers to interact with Spacestore's products. Our finished palette strategy was to focus on a natural feeling of the materiality and evoke a sense of bringing the outdoors in. We focused on a natural, neutral palette that let the product be in the spotlight, and that product would bring in the brand colors to the space. The California case study houses inspired wood slatted ceiling features, expansive glass to bring the outdoors in, and ultimately the central atrium feature with the skylight and greenery. This brings in that slogan, California cool, London design, and we really think that bringing that California outdoor feeling into a New York space would make this showroom be unique to the brand, but also be an escape in the middle of New York. So as we move to the block planning, this diagram illustrates the central atrium that we previously mentioned that we're calling the courtyard in this scheme. And we created a series of vignette moments kind of around it. This layout keeps the window line super clear and allows for all of the natural daylight to come in. It also encourages one to discover the different storylines that are around the space that will constantly be evolving. And in our final planning, you'll see a change to the entry location to be right outside of the elevator. Originally, it was in that bottom conference room. So we'll talk about the conference room a little bit later. But the entry portal frames a beautiful view of the atrium and draws users inside. You'll also notice that we angled the wall at the entry, which enhances this discovery-based layout and cycles visitors around the atrium and the space. Toward the back and the Media Lab material library, it's the only windowless section, which is perfect for clients to play with the digital customizer and see the extensive material options that they have. And so, I mean, I think this was a really good summary of the concept, and we're going to look at some of those images of the space through a virtual showroom later. But so I'd like to hand this over to Nick to lead us into some of those macro trends that influences that have shaped Spacestore as a brand, and then we'll go into that virtual tour. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sam. That's excellent. And hello, everyone. I'm Nick Baxter, Managing Director in the UK unit of Spacestore. But I guess my preference and my leaning is strategic marketing. So very glad to just talk about the trends and influences that we constantly look at. And there's three main streams, I think. And the first one is very much depicted in this image that you used, Sam. Fantastic image, 1960, by Julius Schulman. And it's been described as the most successful real estate image ever. And you can see why. The angle of the shot and the way the picture emphasizes the angularity of the building and that huge slatted soffit and the great use of glass, big expanses of windows to make a light and airy space. And it gives that California influence which we constantly look to. And it's reflected in our products, and it's reflected in the naming of our products, like the Palisades and the residences. And it involves a highly effective yet very relaxed vibe. And I think that's something we constantly look at, along with current trends. So you've got the big societal trends and shifts. So we've illustrated tech on the screen, but there's lots of big moves in society which affect us in design and in work. Of course, we're in the midst of something right now, which is a huge shift, unpredicted, unexpected, and radical for all of us. So we're working away, learning to work from home. There's fresh needs and challenges. So we've got to be conscious of these things. There's been some trends already emerging, which I think the current time only emphasizes. There's a great need for, great desire for authenticity, and a kind of counter trend to the tech, very noisy, always on, busy world of tech. And there's a great place for authenticity, for simple, tactile activities. I noticed there's a huge explosion in simple craft type activities for relaxation right now. And then there's biophilia, and all the aspects that has to connect us with nature and relax us amidst the tech buzz. And then we're coming down more granular to the workspace trends and the real everyday challenges and needs of some of the biggest employers. Some of those client names that Russell put on the screen earlier, they are the biggest employers. And of course, many of them are highly disruptive, and they're at the cutting edge of looking for doing things better, meeting the challenges and overcoming those. So we're very privileged to work with clients like that and co-create new products, and using to take our mantra again, California cool and London design thinking, and we co-create new products and solutions. Those challenges include maybe a swift rearrangement and reconfiguration of the big open office space. That's one of the very big things we've seen in the last year or two. And I think we're going to see a whole chapter of that when the world boots up again and comes back to work. So these are some of the thoughts and the lines and streams of thinking that are incorporated in Spacestore's design process. And we're going to exhibit how we've met various trends with our products through the showroom at Park Avenue South, New York. And we opened this space in February. We've had some great media coverage. Some of the, you can see on the screen there, some of the good architectural shots that we captured really make a web page or an article, and we've had some great coverage. And one of the good things about the current circumstances is that we remain the last thing that happened in New York. We opened the showroom and then the lockdown came. But I think that's great because we're still current, it's still the news. And I'm going to hand over now to Alex to take us through some of the detail in the trends and the products which meet those trends. Thank you, Alex.
Great, thanks, Nick. And thanks, Sam, too, for sharing some of the design insights that you have. Fantastic to revisit that. So I wanted to introduce myself. My name's Alex Harvey. I'm VP Sales with Spacestor, and I'm going to take you through the tour of our New York Design Centre with the help of Sam and Gordon Mcdonald, one of our workplace design team, and Megan Lesniak, both based in the New York showroom. So first of all, welcome to the Spacestor New York Design Centre. We've already discussed the whole concept of the experiential workspace today, and one of the things I always think about this space is that the user experience really starts from the street. So the first glimpses you have of the feature ceiling, as Sam's already mentioned, inviting you into that space, uncovering the first layer of your journey through the space. And one of the things that was really interesting for us in working with Gensler was the way that they put us not just with their workspace team, but with the lifestyle team. And Sam's alluded to her experience in retail, because we found that working with these two teams gave us a completely different dynamic and a layer of expertise that we hadn't really even thought about at all. Uncovering who are the users of the space, because this is not just an experiential space for the Spacestor team and the guests who work here, but also to the visitors who experience a retail experience and perspective of the space. And from the very start, we always said we don't want this to feel just like another furniture showroom. I think
absolutely, Gensler nailed that. We've had great feedback from the visitors who visited the space in the time before the lockdown came on us, and we've had some really great feedback from both visitors and the Spacestor team who are using the space. So first of all, Sam, would you be able to just talk to us about your vision around the entrance portal as you come into the space, and how you feel about the final result and how that's delivered on the vision you had?
Sure. So we'll back up a little bit. So because this space is on the second floor, the journey inside was extremely important, I think, to enhance, the overall experience of the space. So starting from the street level and the view of the ceiling up at the top, and also seeing the Spacestor lit signage, I think it evoked a sense of curiosity about the space, but also felt really bright and inviting. So when you come up the elevator and you arrive, the entry portal is meant to act as sort of a cleanse from New York City before entering the actual showroom. And it's kind of a decompression zone before discovering the atrium and everything beyond. So it's a perfect aperture that frames that atrium and all the greenery and the skylight, and really draws you in. And moving the entry from, as you can see in the image, that white wall to the right, that's where it used to be. It's the first line of sight off the elevator, and it's the first impression of Spacestor. So ultimately, I really do think it was one of the most successful aspects of this story, was moving that entry and creating this portal in.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The way it kind of channels you as you come into the space, and I liked your reference to the moment of compression. Someone likened it to coming out of the New York subway as you come through this kind of dark tunnel, and then you come into the big kind of open, bright space, which is what we're going to do now, bring you into the space and explore the individual vignettes and furniture pieces. So one thing you'll notice as we go through is that they also are completely related to the big design and workplace trends we've been discussing. Everything hangs together. So as we come into the space, one of the things that we've been considering with a lot of our clients and seeing as a growing trend is the blurring of lines between work, relaxing, socializing, all the things that people have to do, but we're finding with an always-on lifestyle, you have to provide for those moments to pause and reflect in the workspace. And sometimes we need certain spaces to do that, whether it's a quiet corner to just think, or maybe read a book, maybe catch up with a friend in another region or country, or make a phone call, maybe just to sit down and play the guitar. And providing a space for that makes all the difference. So what we have here is the Snuggle Store, part of our system all range. And this is the perfect place for a catch up or a coffee, just a really relaxed space where you can have an intimate one-to-one conversation, or just pause and consider for a minute or two. And this is really the trend that we see as the hybrid workplace, where the workplace is performing more than one function. So we're going to bring you into the conference room now. And Sam, as we're doing that, Sam, could you just explain why the conference room was located here within the space, and kind of how you laid out the room and created the different elements to make up the conference room?
Right. So, well, as you know from the plan, the entry used to be where the conference room is now, in the picture on the right side of that wall. So when we closed that up and that entry was relocated, it was a perfect niche for either the programming elements of the design lab or a conference room. So of the two, it made great sense for a conference room to have the opportunity for the natural daylight along that window line, and also the really nice views outside of Park Avenue. And then also, due to the angling of the wall in the plan that you can see in the bottom right, that it draws people around the atrium, it kind of created these odd shapes in the plan, but no space was dead to us. So a lot of the space ended up turning to be a pantry or storage or greenery. In one of the cases, a little garden behind some of the furniture elements. So I think that it ended up making this space feel much bigger and kind of unique.
That's cool. Good. Thanks, Sam. And what we're seeing here is an example of the versatility and the flexibility of the system wall range, the way it's been used. So now we had it previously as a Snuggle Store. Now we have it configured as a media wall and merged with our Palisades Luxe product to create a statement piece in this upscale New York vibe. So showing a different variety of styles and settings. And I was just thinking, as you were saying there, the way you haven't left any dead space was really important, because we had a lot of functional things that we needed to be carried out in the space in a relatively small footprint. And I think we've been able to deliver on everything we wanted, and it doesn't feel cluttered. It feels open, it feels airy. So as we then come out the conference room into the main space, just reflecting on another trend that we see with many of our clients all over the world, is that the workplace is constantly in a state of perpetual evolution. In tech terms, people call it perpetual beta. That means that it's never complete. It's always evolving and changing and shifting. And we see with many of our clients the value of using furniture to divide spaces. It's a concept that we call at Spacestor architecture within architecture, or I heard another one recently, furnitecture, which I thought was a fun word. I'm going to try and use that as often as possible in the future. Some of our clients talk about shifts with furniture and shifts around the space that take 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, depending on the nature of the environmental shift that you're trying to create. But I remember one of the clients we work with a lot globally mentioned to me, we'd love to find a way of dividing space but without building walls. And that's a great reference to a lot of the things that Spacestor have done for many years, using configurable modular furniture that can be reshaped and adapted by others. So the bleachers you see in the foreground of the image here, for example, it takes 2 minutes to change this around to create a different type of space and different dynamic to the space, because maybe there's a different type of conversation going on. Maybe you want to have a brainstorm 1 minute and then a town hall meeting or a collaboration meeting in the future. So we can change that on almost a minute by minute basis. And Sam, I know this reflects back on a conversation we had at some point during the process. I know you mentioned to me that you often see clients using the space in a different way to how you'd originally envisaged it. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts around how you've seen Spacestor using this space, and was that any different to what you had originally pictured?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been to the space a few times now, and aside from the obvious one that it is a showroom, so it's obviously being used for that. It's also designed to be a multimodal space and super flexible. And this is something that we discussed in those design trends earlier. So I've seen this space be used as a lab to test products. I've seen it be used as a co-working space. Designers are invited for this to be a meeting space as well. It can be used for activations, and I've been to our opening, and there's industry parties and lecture series. So I think that this space will continue to evolve and be used for a variety of things, which is why the flexibility of the space is super, super key.
Cool, that's good. And a great point you mentioned there, that this not now of course, but this is a space that we love to invite designers to use to work in, to carry out presentations and client meetings, as well as obviously meeting with Spacestor and looking at the Spacestor products. So let's continue the journey. And another key workspace trend we've seen emerging during the last few years, and I think has accelerated hugely in the past few weeks, is that society is widely reported to be suffering from loneliness. And we see this as an unintended consequence to some of the technology that's now in our hand, in our pocket all day. So technology connects us, but it's not always in a very human way. And using technology, we can connect at scale, we can connect across geographical boundaries, just as we are now. But we don't always connect in the same way as we do face to face. But I think the one thing that's really been striking me in the last 2 weeks is that human connection is an absolute luxury. It's really, really important to us as people to have those human to human connectors. And the office and the workspace is an area where that happens on a daily and a weekly basis. So what you see on the slide here is our railway carriage, again, designed to foster those connections, but not just the intentional connections, the pre-booked meetings, but the spontaneous collaborations, the chance collaborations that we see happening, what we call the water cooler moments or the coffee point moments. And I think maybe that's one of the things that we're missing the most right now. We're having a lot of intentional meetings online. We're meeting with clients and with colleagues, hourly by Zoom or Hangouts or whatever platform it is we use, but those chance collaborations don't happen in quite the same way. And then let's continue to move around the space. So you've got the back wall, which is a complete locker wall. Again, is an example of the flexibility of the different solutions that can be created using the Spacestor product. So here we've used a lot of flexibility around the materials and the customizations. We've incorporated some custom features such as the LED lights you can see built in there, multiple locker sizes. We've got the different niches and alcoves using to display plants and other items. And also, as you can probably see in the image in front of you now, the fabric rack panels. So we've used fabric to create just a different texture and a different feel to the lockers to what you might expect. And with this locker area, we've also already touched on tech fusion, something that Sam mentioned earlier. And with these lockers, we've integrated our Hot Locker Agile technology. So completely concealed, but technology that allows you to program the lockers either fixed address, so assigned to an individual person, or dynamic, so any drop-in user can use them, and using an app on your phone or a swipe card to access the lockers. And then as a management tool, you can then start to potentially monitor usage and look at how effectively people are using the lockers, and maybe predict what your next workspace needs to look like based on the data that you have available to you. So we'd love to invite you to join us on a webinar later in this series where we're discussing dispelling the myths around smart lockers. So what can be done around lockers and personal storage to make a space more effective, more user-friendly. So then, as we move into one of the key features of the space, the central courtyard. So this was created from a unique customization of the Spacestor Palisades 2 product. So Sam, could you just explain a little bit about the concept you had in mind when you were creating this feature, and how you also included the ceiling in the overall design?
Yeah, of course. So these obviously are the two kind of main features in the space. So again, going back to that word heuristic, and trying to use these products in a unique way that's never been done before. So someone actually just asked a question about when products came into the design process, and actually thinking about what these specific products were. So I think that we were always thinking about how we can incorporate these products into an architectural feature. We just didn't know what it would be, so we've studied many things, but it ended up being that the Palisades 2 product was very flexible and had a few different iterations, being 2D or 3D, square and rectangular, and we customized it to be a floor to ceiling atrium and kind of this architectural structure. And then also, again, with that slat ceiling that was referenced in the case story houses, we could kind of achieve that look by adding the wood slats into the Palisades product there as well. So it was a really great effort in collaboration with Spacestor to customize their product and bring this kind of unique design vision to life. I think it also shows how willing they are to work with designers and make such incredible and unique spaces with us. And, we're not bound by just what's on the website. So I think this was a really cool thing, and I hope it inspires other designers to do the same.
That's very true. And I agree, Sam, that it definitely challenged us as a team to kind of work with the vision that you and the team at Gensler created. I particularly love that virtual skylight we have here, which I think the GC was slightly confused when we told them we're going to put a skylight on the second floor of a 12-story building. But this is a virtual skylight, not a real one. But it does bring a real feeling of natural light to the space, which was one of the key things we wanted to bring into that space. And we certainly see clients already being inspired by it. So visitors to the showroom have already come away saying, hey, we've never seen Palisades used in this way before. Can we use it in a similar way for other projects? And we've started to see a few projects that have been sparked off by this idea. So the courtyard is, again, reflecting on some of the trends that we see within our client organizations, is that many of the clients are building and curating communities. So I've heard it said that great communities start on their own, but they grow and thrive as they are fostered and curated. And using the different furniture items, the design of space and the design of a workplace to create something like this, a beautiful town hall location or a creative team space, can really enable communities to be to grow and to thrive. So I'd like to invite Gordon Mcdonald now to just tell us a bit about how we use the space within the courtyard
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Sam, for the Gensler insight into this project. I am Gordon Mcdonald, and I am based out of the New York Design Center. I'd just like to touch on a little bit. This is one of my favorite spaces within our design center. We like to, it's one of those spaces that is multifunctioned. We've had seminars, we've held seminars in there, but on a broader scope, what we see is the idea is to amenity-rich spaces. And I think Sam touched on this back a little bit when we were talking about workplace trends. So clients are providing workspaces for all sorts of activities. Alex referred earlier to collaboration, privacy, desking spaces, but here we have just simply relaxing. This could be that space where you pick up that guitar, where you sit down with a friend, have a quick catch up. What we're also seeing is companies are providing amenities like cafes, well-being rooms, and gyms all within the workspace campus. So a rich collection of exceptional amenities and perks is becoming a race with these large companies, and leading employers are differentiating themselves from their rivals. I just want to touch on a comment that Alex made earlier about architecture within architecture. This particular space makes you feel like you've got a room around you. I can potentially still hear you, I can see you, but I feel like I've got some privacy in that great open workplace. We all know that there is always the argument around open workplace, but something like the Palisade system, and what I love about this particular Courtyard is it's completely freestanding. So there is no, you're not putting up a stick build, you're not putting up a permanent wall system. This can be reconfigured, but it creates that space to allow your employees to just come sit down, chill out, and be able to relax. But with that, it does lead us on to our next product, which is probably the completely opposite of the open workspace, and that's the residence privacy pods. While the open workspace does a fantastic job providing opportunities to collaborate and works well for many organizations and individuals, there's still a need for privacy. One of the big downsides is there's often not enough consideration given to privacy for private or confidential discussions or distraction reduction. This has been well documented because it's a pressing and real issue. You hear your neighbor having a conversation beside you about maybe it's something personal or maybe it's a project and you just can't focus. The distraction of effects of a phone call, or what we call half of a conversation, half of someone's conversation, in a team or a neighborhood of 20 people, you do that once an hour, that becomes quite a bit of time wasted. So the residence pods are a privacy pod with a high acoustic performance, but uniquely also relaxed and cool aesthetic vibe. We often get comments from our clients saying it just feels like part of the furniture, like part of their home. One piece that I did want to touch on is the sustainability of this product. So the residence was arranged that we put a lot of effort into in collaborating with some large tech clients as to sustainability. It's a big topic, sustainability, and all of its ramifications. So being able to understand the environmental and personal impact of sustainability and what can Spacestor do to help that. More and more of our projects are looking to achieve WELL standards or LEED standards. So we now look at the life cycle of our products, the elimination of plastic waste. Can we reuse them? Can we upcycle them? And then repurposing of recycled or reclaimed materials. Also, I'd like to note that we have made a very conscious effort to remove or reduce reduce formaldehyde from any of our products. We've also, as as the world has gone down on lockdown, we've also made a conscious look at our supply chain, both our secondary and primary supply chains. And this is one of those products that we have made a conscious effort to source all of our components locally. So we're not reliant on either an Asian supply chain or reliant on an inconsistent supply chain. It's a journey that here at Spacestor we're committed to. You will see this across all of our product ranges. And with that, I would like to have Megan Lesniak, our New York showroom manager, and Sam just give us a tour through our work lab.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Gordon, for the introduction. So to bring you to the work lab, which you see here on the screen, this is essentially a space for our clients and designers to co-create and to bring their project to fruition. So to walk you through, you're immediately drawn to the sample wall, which you see here. This is a custom feature of our storage wall solution. So it's just another unique example of the endless options with the Spacestor products. This allows us to keep a library of freely available finishes, fabric samples, and textures to work with. Also in this room is our digital customizer tool, where you can choose an array of product lines and completely customize the design elements alongside the Spacestor team with the finishes at hand. This truly comes to life here when you have everything available at your fingertips, enhancing the design experience and helping to solidify the project. Once the project is designed and finalized, the client can then download the custom project in CAD, 3ds Max, Revit, SketchUp through the customizer tool. Another fun feature which you see here in this image is our T-point area, another feature of Spacestor, where we have our built-in top brewer coffee machine here on the counter. This works with just a touch of an iPad, so it's just a really great feature to add to our room, allows the designer and our clients to really focus on the scope of their project and do everything in-house right then and there. Really, it's a special space, and we find it all very inspiring, and I hope that soon enough you can all join us in person when this is all over. For now, I'll pass this back to Alex for Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. And that brings us towards the last few minutes, and I just echo what you say, Megan. We'd love to invite, once things go back to, once real life returns, once things go back to normal, we'd love to invite you to join us in the New York showroom, our New York Design Centre. So wants to wrap up now. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to Sam, appreciate your time, and thanks to your team for the fantastic design you put together. So
thank you guys.
Just leads us to, first of all, invite you to future webinars with Spacestor. We're continuing to keep the conversation live around the trends today and what the trends of the future might be. So we'd love to invite you to sign up for the next webinars as they come through. And we'd also love to ask if there are any questions that we can discuss with Sam and with the team here. So I noticed we have one on the panel from Uma. So Uma's asking about well-being and how that's a big priority nowadays. So how did that drive the design of the space? And then how have we cultivated well-being through the design of the space? And if I just put a few thoughts together, Sam, and you can throw in your ideas and concepts. So I guess some of the things that we've already touched on were really important to us in how we design the space. So the ability to connect with people. So creating spaces where we can have those one-to-one connections, where we can actually sometimes just chill out and relax, because whilst we're all busy, we've got lots of work to do, we need those human moments. That was really important to us, and that's particularly important to us in how we design the products here at Spacestor. And then another key element to the overall design of the space was the ability to keep it open. So we've got a great amount of natural light flowing through the space, and we're reflecting that right the way through from front to back. Sam, could you throw in your thoughts around the overall design of the space and well-being?
Yeah, I mean, obviously well-being is always top of mind, and particularly for this space when we're talking about that design trend of invisible tech and incorporating that skylight into really bring in a biophilic element and natural materials. So this whole space is really evoking a sense of natural well-being. But also, I think, we talked about creating choice for people to work and sit and explore different seating opportunities. So I think, yeah, I think you covered most of it.
That's great. Yeah, biophilia is a key part of it. I was just remembering the reason so that the word biophilia, where it comes from, was a psychologist in the 60s who took the Greek word of philia, meaning love of, and bio, meaning life. So biophilia literally means that the love of life and living. So the whole concept of natural materials, natural finishes, the finishes that we've used in the space, not just the planting, because that was an important part of the space, but many other finishes all contribute to that subtle influence of biophilia. So I'd like to invite Russell to briefly touch on the next question. So Naam is asking about the time frame of the concept from initial concept through to completion.
Thanks, Alex. So we kicked off the project with the design team in April 2019 and went through various iterations and concepts as you do. And then we actually started on site in late September, and the build program ran from there through to the end of the year and just into early January when we started welcoming the first visitors into the space. So that was the overall frame. I mean, overall, between 9 and 10 months from initial concept out to completion and live showroom we could use.
Pretty compressed from the design perspective, wasn't it, Sam?
It was pretty quick. Yeah, it was very quick, but I do think that starting off with a visioning session with you guys to really understand your needs as a brand and what you saw yourselves being as a brand in the future, it helped us get more of a clear direction of what we wanted this space to really be. So we didn't have too many hiccups, so I think we moved pretty quickly through this.
Cool. And then Bill's asking about fire code regulations. Russell, maybe you could touch on that. The New York fire code is quite different to what we've been used to with our London showroom.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yeah, we had to work through quite a bit of detail. I wouldn't exactly say challenges. It just in terms of the selection of materials and getting it through the necessary permits, etc., that were needed for the space. So nothing insurmountable, but we did have to be careful and get all the right fire and life safety things integrated. It didn't. I would say though, it didn't affect the concept of the design. We just had to. It just more came down to the detail of how we worked it out. The overall design concept was left intact from the original concept.
Great. And one final question from Andrew Herbst. Phone booths available for our work from home offices. It's an interesting concept. I know my kids would love one. Gordon, could you touch on that?
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I was on a seminar the other day and they were saying that could be one of the new ideas coming out. I certainly think that there are going to be concepts. I don't know that we've exactly designed anything that we can pop into your lounge room at the moment, but I am sure that there will be, as we start to see more and more companies implement a work from home policy. I certainly think it is going to lend itself to more innovative products. So Andrew, watch this space. Never know what we may come up with next.
Great, good. Well, thanks, Gordon, and thanks again to everyone who joined us. I think as a final reflection, I think one of the things that we were discussing when we first toured the space with Gensler was how similar the final end result was to the initial concepts and visuals that Gensler created. So very, very pleased with the way the space has turned out. Thanks to Sam very much for joining us this afternoon, and thanks to all of you for taking time out. It's been great to meet with you, and trust you have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe and stay positive. Thanks for joining Spacestor, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.